what seems like waste can become something beautiful. My name is Abeyson and Job,
My name is Reuben Phillip.
and you're listening to the Beautiful Waste podcast.
So we started off with prayer.
Uh,
Abeyson.
well, we did not so far, but if you want to pray,
I
sure.
think we're fine.
Okay. I remember when you were at Metro.
Uh-huh.
Oh, sorry, everybody who's watching. This is my
Yeah.
friend Josh. I'm sure you know him because he's super popular on Instagram,
Overflow
especially right now.
Ministries.
Overflow Musket. Go follow. We're gonna try to put it in the descriptions if I remember to put it. But I don't know. Where did we start? You said prayer. And I remember, I think when you were in Metro, before practice, we had this tradition of like just praying before practice, and you're like, no, we should have been like always talking to God.
This
Yeah,
guy.
so, I mean, we
It's a,
pray once in. Wait, when did we pray last time towards the end? Or did we ever? I don't
no,
know.
we usually pray. We pray like before.
Oh, before we press record.
Yeah. So
I think last time we prayed for me and Elsa because we were not feeling well, like we were
Yep.
sick.
yeah.
Yeah. So
I guess it's more of like we pray in our
Yeah.
hearts. Yeah, we
It's
pray
more
in
like
our
praying
hearts
without
outside.
ceasing.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Exactly.
we're praying 24/7, even while we're having this conversation. We're praying. So
Amen.
Hallelujah.
What is
Hey,
prayer?
Oof.
is that the conversation?
Oh,
Hey, but this is a collab though with Josh.
it is.
I was thinking
It
about this
is.
idea before I joined. I said we could call this beautiful overflow.
Ooh, glory to
Oh.
God.
Beautiful
You want to
overflow.
add Metro in somewhere?
Yeah, let's go.
Beautiful overflow.
Let's see. No, that won't work.
I
That
don't
won't
know
work.
where Metro fits in. Beautiful overflow.
Overflow.
Metro, I don't know.
It's too much collabs at
Yeah.
that point.
I know,
Yeah.
it's too many things.
Yeah.
But
Excited to see you guys,
yeah.
man. I saw you guys on IG Live, and I was kind of a little getting
Yeah.
sad over here that I couldn't be a part of what you guys are doing over there. But yeah, I was there for the whole
I-
conversation. It was awesome.
I remember the time when Josh was at your place and I was watching y'all on IG Live and I was feeling the same thing. So
I know.
I guess Josh is just taking turns over there, over here.
I know. I'm just trying to figure out how to be a world traveler like Josh is.
I know.
Josh is
Oof.
everywhere.
Would
Just-
you want to release that anointing over us right now?
Father, we release that upon them right now. Let them travel.
Amen. Actually, Josh can travel because he doesn't have a wife to come back home to. We have responsibilities.
Ooh.
But Josh is awesome and so excited to have you here. Just like how you pulled me in last minute to Overflow, I'm pulling you in last minute to Beautiful Ways.
Let's go, beautiful waste.
But
Yep.
I'm glad that we do this very much offline also. So it's just like us coming on and just talking about life and all the different things. I think we started off talking about something offline, and Ruben decided that it would be fun to do that online. So we were talking about how each one of us are on the spectrum of being planned to being spontaneous or not exactly having a plan,
Yep.
just going with the flow of things. And I feel like Ruben's a very big planner, and I like that about him too, because he's like, I need to know all the details, and I love that he cares about the details. And because of that, our podcast is what it is. So far, if you have been watching all the episodes, it is because of Ruben and his planning and his hard work that he puts in. I just came up with the idea and I just talk. So thank you, Ruben, for that. But Ruben feels like I'm a very free flow kind of person. But I was saying that I feel like I'm in between Josh and Ruben because I feel like Josh is a little bit more let's go with the flow kind of person. Ruben is like, I need to figure out what I'm trying to do before I take a step. I say Josh is more free flowing than me because as he was planning his trip to Hyderabad, I kept trying to plan his days. I'm like, okay, when are you coming? What are we going to do on these days? And all Josh kept saying was, let's figure it out. Let's figure it out.
I think the story behind that was my entire life in back home is planned. Everything is planned. And so when I take a break, I don't want to plan. It's the opposite. So when I'm coming down here, I'm coming into your normal everyday life, which is spontaneous, free flowing mix of everything. And for me, I'm like, I've been planning my entire like every day is planned. It has its own schedule. I'm like, you know what? I'm coming for a break. I don't want to plan anything. Let's just go with the flow. So it's like two different seasons.
So
Yeah, that makes sense.
I
This is
explained
like
my
vacation
stance.
for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I love being spontaneous. But I also like having a plan in case the spontaneous isn't working out. We need to fall back into the plan. So I always like to have a plan, like some kind of plan. We have a plan, we have a structure, but I can tend to go spontaneous. And if it's not working, fall back.
And we're not just talking about worship set list, guys. We're talking about life.
Yes.
Life in
So
general. I don't, but I'm the opposite when it comes to life, though, bro. I feel like when it comes
Yeah.
to, I feel like I'm kind of like Josh in this way too. Like I'm very just like free flowing. Like I'm like, okay, we'll just go with the flow type person. But when it comes to like especially like worship sets and like, and I know Josh especially knows this when you're planning like video shoots or you're planning like
Yeah.
all these things. It's not just like it can't just happen. Or I don't know if
For sure.
Josh is a person that does it all the time, but there has to be somebody who's like kind of coordinating and putting
No,
all
for
these things
sure.
together. So
100%.
yeah, I feel like in life I'm very go with the flow type person, but when it comes to like I guess
Yeah.
vision casting and like dreaming, I'm
Yeah,
very
yeah.
detail oriented. So
No,
Yeah.
but I feel like that's true with all of us because I know there's so many conversations that I have with Elsa,
Yeah.
my wife. If you don't know, for the ones who are watching and listening, she's like, I don't know. What do you want me to say? Because I didn't think of it that far ahead. And I
Yeah.
feel like all of us have those areas where we're a bit more free flowing
Yeah.
and we're a bit more planned. And I feel like both are very important because
Yeah.
I mean, if we did not plan this podcast, we would not have like this would not happen, you know. And
Yeah.
even today, for me to have a good camera and good lighting, it's because Keith had to plan. Oh, Keith is the guy who is the reason behind us having a good camera
Yep.
and lighting and all that.
And then
So
and the
shout
nice
out to
camera,
Keith.
nice
He's sitting
gear.
right there.
Hey, let's get him
You
on
want to
this
come say hi?
podcast one day.
Yes, right now. That's Keith.
Hey
Keith.
Keith, what's
Yeah,
up, bro?
so-
I don't think you can hear me. Can you?
Sadly, he cannot hear us.
Sadly,
Okay,
he cannot
okay.
hear because we have to use AirPods. But
Yeah.
yeah, so he had to plan a bunch of stuff for us to do this in a good way.
And it's again like I can come on this podcast right now without any plan because both of you guys have a plan of what's going to happen, which makes me just come in and free flow because somebody else has set a structure up. If you guys have no plan, that's where I'll have to start planning. So there's always planning involved in some stage. I think it depends on who's doing it in what field. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And do you guys get frustrated whenever things are not planned, like or executed, like where you want to free flow? Go ahead, go ahead.
I thought you were saying like, do you get frustrated when you plan something it doesn't go the way you want it to go? That's me.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But what
I'm
were you
very-
saying though?
Oh
Go
no,
ahead.
I was just a similar conversation. I guess one being like, do you feel frustrated when you plan something and things don't go well, and then do you get frustrated because Josh was saying like he loves structure, but then he also loves when the foundation is there, he can come in free flow. But do you guys get frustrated when things are not planned? I guess personally, and whenever you guys come into a situation when things should be planned.
yes, because I think planning saves a lot of time. It stops. It helps. It helps create a very good flow. Like, okay, let's take worship sets for example. I'm going to use a worship set. Like with my team, like I have a plan. Like there'll be a structure. This is what happens. But I think my entire team knows one thing that I can go off anywhere, and they will have a rough idea of what can happen, and they love the adventure of of being spontaneous. So they know when they're with me, they're like, you know what, we can enjoy. There's a structure, but it can also go anywhere. So it keeps it a little exciting.
Yeah.
It's not like okay, it's just the same thing. They're not limited.
Yeah.
But the structure helps them, be organized and just keep things in order.
No, I
Yeah.
feel like that can be possible when you have that relationship with your team, right?
Yes, I think that's key to that.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think even last time when we talked, it all came down to having that relationship, and
Yeah.
I think that's key for so many things. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, So right now, the church that I'm serving in, we don't have a steady team, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of hard. Like we mainly use multi tracks, and we
Mm-hmm.
have like different people who can come help out and stuff like that. We're still in the process of building a team, so it's very hard for me to go off into those spontaneous moments
Yeah.
because I do not have people that can just run with me like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think, again, the team needs to fully trust you that when you go somewhere, you're taking them to a place that they can actually come along.
yeah,
Mm.
Because when we had a new bass player join in, and we were like the rest of us were very set. We knew everything, and he was new, and we had to completely come back to structured for 1 year. Every single thing was written down. He needed numbers for everything.
Mm.
So we did 1 year of being structured, like completely structured, no spontaneous, and
Mm.
until he got to the level of trust with everybody else, and then we started being
Mm.
spontaneous. So it took time because he needed to come into the same level.
Mm.
yeah.
So
And
Well,
also
how do you
like
guys feel?
yeah, go ahead,
Good,
go ahead.
good. I said, how do you
No,
feel when like things are not planned well though? How do you go about like being the leader you are, uh, just when things are not planned the way you anticipated?
not planned well as a leader, does that fall upon us or does that fall upon somebody else? Because if you're a leader, I think you should be the one planning.
are you talking about a random like an event you go to where things are not planned?
Let's take an example of worship, okay? Like let's just like music directors, okay? They're in charge of like planning the worship set, or like they're in charge of like getting the set, like the songs ready, the arrangements, and all that stuff. You come and you're like, man, it's not the way that I anticipated, or yeah, like events. If you come to an event, you're like, I'm helping with the event, but it's not like the way that I anticipated. How do you carry yourself? Um, or video shoot for you, Josh, if you're like, man,
Maybe so I think the bigger the team, the more the planning.
mm-hmm,
So for example, Keith's over here. If Keith and me are doing something, we know we can pull off something spontaneous super fast. But
mm-hmm,
the
okay,
moment the third person comes into the picture, we know we need to plan more
okay,
because planning helps us communicate what we really want to communicate to them.
mm-hmm,
It saves us a lot of time because if I don't like we, for example, we did a shoot once. I'll talk about it. So Keith and me have been doing shoots for about 3 months by then. We did the shoot and we had this friend of ours come in. He was doing the camera and we shot the whole thing. My eyes were closed, everything. We finished the whole thing. Look at the video, and he's literally having the camera and he's going sideways like this. And I'm like, what is that? And then I realized that it's not his fault. We didn't communicate clearly what he
mm,
was supposed to do because we had not really had somebody else come in and work with us. We were so used to doing it just with ourselves that
mm,
when the team got bigger, we didn't plan ahead for the. So we didn't think it from the ending. We
mm,
were thinking very linear, like this. And so
mm,
from that time, we realized that anytime somebody comes in, we got to tell them the end goal, what we really want, start it from there, bring it back, and take them forward.
okay,
So I think the bigger the team, the more the communications also needed. It all goes in like again, if it's just us two and you, we don't need to plan to come up and talk. But
right,
imagine you're getting somebody else. You need to tell them a structure. You need to tell them what's happening.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. A lot of it's just like chemistry, right? Over time, like
Right.
you build that trust with people. Communication is key. I have a
For
hard time
sure.
sometimes like going to like different places, and when people ask me to lead worship, I have a really hard time sometimes. It's like there will be sometimes I go to churches and there's like literally no planning. I'll ask like the coordinator like, hey, how long do you want me to do a worship set? They're like, it's up to you. And I'm like, oh, who's speaking? Oh, we don't know yet. I was like, oh, when do you want me to end the worship set? Do you want me to end in prayer? Oh yeah, go ahead. It's up to you. Like there's always some sort of fear that always comes with me that I'm just like I'm messing something up. But like I always learn just to like communication is really key. Because in the
Hmm.
beginning I used to never like ask questions. Uh, I never be like, hey, like, okay, 20, you want a 20-minute worship set. So does that mean you want 2 to 3 songs? Oh, 2 songs are good. Okay, 2 songs. And what type of songs are you wanting to go? So like being really detailed in even the questions that you ask. Because I think people are afraid to ask questions because they don't want to sound like they're inexperienced or like they don't know what they're doing. But I feel like that also
Yeah.
adds to your level of expertise when you're like, you're asking the questions and you know exactly what the person wants from you.
Yes, I
So
think I do the same thing. What you did, Like
Yeah.
people invite me to lead worship. I'm like, okay, so what are the last? I asked them, can you show me your last 3 set lists? I want to know what songs your church sings. I want to know where you guys are at, because it's not about me coming and just doing my thing and getting out. It's not, worship is more than just me coming and singing. It's about everybody worshiping, singing together. So
Yeah.
I would ask the same question. I'm like, hey, so where are you guys at? What language? What is going on? New songs, old songs? What music does your church sing? Like, it helps us plan.
Yes. Yes.
Because
Yes.
it's not a performance. It's more about leading people into worship, and they need to engage with us too. So
Yeah.
I think those
Yeah.
questions help.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. Because
Is
it
there
makes me
lag?
fearful.
Okay.
Is there like?
No, I don't know, because I was just like, I felt like we were kind of talking over each other. But if we're fine, we're fine.
We're
It's fine.
good.
We're good. Okay, cool.
Oh, you and Josh?
No, you and me.
Oh, I don't know. Are we?
I don't know.
I think we're good.
We're good. We're good. We're good.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But yeah,
So,
no, I agree with you, Josh. I think we get afraid sometimes that like when things don't go according to our expectation, that like we failed. But I don't think, like you're saying, it's not about us, right? I think it's about, at the end of the day, like giving glory back to God, and being a creator and like a someone who like sees the end product. I always like think that I failed when something doesn't go right, like when I don't color correct all the cameras, or the editing goes bad and everything. But like there's like a beauty in even like things that go wrong, like when there's sometimes like you mess up in something, you learn something about yourself, your character, you learn something through the process. I remember when we were first doing during quarantine, I was teaching the guys how to shoot in a different profile, and I remember all of them got the wrong exposure on the cameras, and every video that I got was like overexposed, all the cameras like blown out. The person didn't even look, they look like a Oompa Loompa. That's how every single person looked like. And I was mad. Like I was mad to the point where like I need to hold in my frustration, don't take it out on the team, because if I do, they'll lose trust with me. And then God was just like simply like, this is an opportunity for you to teach yourself how to be a better videographer or an editor. So I took like 2-3 days learning how to correct overexposed videos. And maybe the videos didn't come out to like the exact quality I wanted, but I think I learned something through that process. I learned that next time, make sure you check, the details of everything. Just like you were saying, right? That person who was waving his camera back and forth, you taught yourself a lesson next time to be like, hey, I need to, be prepared if anything goes wrong. Yeah. Yep.
yeah. So like just being that listener into that whole conversation, the words that come to mind is like excellence and perfectionism.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like we can get so caught up in like I think off camera sometime we were talking, Josh and I, and you were talking about how a whole bunch of people were super skilled but they never put their stuff out because they're so caught up in I need to make it the best at whatever. But then none of your stuff is ever coming out, and even with Josh doing what he does on Instagram Reels and all that stuff, I know like we had this conversation off camera and how he talks about it's a growing process, but he's okay with putting that out and understanding
It's
excellence and
funny. Like, look at
perfectionism.
this.
Yeah,
I have this whole thing written out about this exact same thing.
go ahead,
I was like,
talk about it.
I want to put it out because I'm like, everybody thinks that it's so easy for me to put stuff out. But the reason I started putting stuff out is because I struggle with perfectionism.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, because I struggle so much with that, I'm like, I need to break out of it. And I can't simply start from nowhere. I need to start somewhere. It might be simple stuff, starting somewhere small. So I think for me, Instagram Reels, the reason I do that is one, it helps me just put stuff out without having to worry about what people think. It's a very slow process of me just learning to not aim for perfection, but more like enjoy the journey of just making music, doing stuff with friends, with family, with people,
Yeah.
and learning and
Yeah.
growing. Like, because perfectionism
Yep.
was my biggest struggle. I'm like, I don't need to be perfect. Let's aim for just giving the best that you can on a particular day, on a particular moment. And I think most of my reels, I was thinking this, most of my favorite reels and the ones where I've enjoyed singing have happened on days when my throat was dead. Like when I cannot sing. Because I realized that I expect less from myself. Like when I'm recording, I'm not expecting my voice to do amazing. So because I'm not expecting that from myself, I'm able to enjoy singing rather than try to sing perfect. And I'm like, I actually enjoy the feel of the raw vocals coming out because it's not perfect. It's just who I am on a bad
It's who
day where
you
my
are.
throat isn't the best. Yeah,
And
and
and I think for me
that's
that's
the
the
whole
whole
thing.
thing.
I'm
Like
like,
it
it
starts
starts
somewhere.
somewhere. I'm like,
It's
it's
hard for
hard
me to
for me
put
to
a
put a
4 minute
4 minute
song
song
out,
on,
but
but
30
30
seconds
seconds
is
is
easy.
easy.
It's
It's
baby
baby
steps.
steps, and then Instagram increases time to 1 minute. I'm like, I can do 1 minute stuff now. It's like a very slow process, and I enjoy it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bro, and the stuff that you release is amazing, like I think, and I see like just the progression and the growth in that as well. I don't think like any of us, when you go back to our earlier stages of anything that we created, that we would honestly say that we got to this point, but it had to have started somewhere. And I think like we all are like people who have a thirst for knowledge, and I
Mm-hmm.
think for me that's exactly the journey that I enjoy the most, is when I take
Mm-hmm.
a risk to do something. I feel like I learn, and I grow, and I become a better at something that I never thought I would ever like
Yes.
be good at, or like even accomplish, like things that I never did. And so I know we were supposed to talk about technology today. I know Abby had talked about that. Maybe we can, but I think for a lot of us,
This
it's
is
not.
this is this is an example. This is an example of planning for something, going spontaneous, but still having a plan to fall back
In
on.
case things don't work out.
Come on. Yes. Yes. So like just talking about technology and all this stuff, I don't think like all of us in this conversation, and I don't think we never thought that we would be videographers or photographers or content creators. Like that was never like our like. I mean, maybe we
Right.
had a desire of like creating something, but like we just, as time got better and as we progressed, we just got better at our craft. Like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Josh probably knows the ins and outs of a camera, not because he woke up one day and said, I'm gonna, know everything about the Canons or Sonys. Like I don't think
Yeah.
that was his heart and his intention. But like as he tried more ideas, he did more things, he just became better at his craft. Just like
Yeah.
music, worship for us. So many different platforms, things that we put our hands into. And there's a certain level of passion that we have for these things that I think when we do more and more of it, God just uploads knowledge into us, and I have a thirst for knowledge that like I'm watching YouTube videos at night when I should be
I
going to
think
sleep, you know?
I think whatever you said is the exact same thing where I'm at. I'm like, even Keith, we talk about it. Like, we're literally watching YouTube videos every single day. Like, I think, I'll be honest, more than a reel being put out, for me, I enjoy learning something.
Hmm.
Like, I'm like, there was one recently I did one. I was so happy because for me, I wanted to always learn orchestral music. Never done it. It's easier to make guitar. Acoustic guitar is easy. And when I spent about 40 hours learning and making it. And I was just, for me, it was
Wow.
more like, man, I learned this thing. I was like, the reel is good. But for me, I was like, man, I made a beat. I learned this. I learned strings. I learned the different names. And I enjoyed the journey of learning more than the reel. I was like, the
Mm.
reel is good. It's okay. But I learned because once you learn something, it's part of you. It's there inside. You're never losing
It's
it.
you have it now. Yeah. Yeah.
YouTube videos, day in, day out. Like, it's how I fall asleep.
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Abby.
No, no, like I just want. So I'm like, I feel like I'm like a fly in the wall, kind of like listening over your conversations, right? Because you both are in those spaces where you are learning all these different things, and I know like there's so many times when even with you, Rube, like when something with technology stuff comes, you can like talk about for days, like plugins and
Mm.
all that stuff. And the same thing with Josh, like even earlier, I think when we were shooting Elza's Tales to Testimony. Okay, we were just sitting and talking about like him and like Pastor Amit was here. They were just talking about plugins and how Josh was saying like I can talk about this stuff all day, but like also thinking about the same lines. But you
Yeah.
guys never started off like you guys doing what you're doing right now.
Mm.
It never started off saying, oh, I'm gonna be a like a videographer
Mhm.
or a music
Mm.
producer or anything like that. It started off with a heart of wanting to do ministry, and
Mm-hmm.
you guys are both in like ministry in a way, like that's a
Mm-hmm.
big part of your life,
Yeah.
like with Josh with Overflow and you with everything that you're doing at Metro, with students and as a
Yeah.
creative pastor and all these
Mm-hmm.
different things. So I just kind of wanted to know like how these both parts of your life, which are so like a point where you're watching YouTube videos and falling asleep to them, but at the same time, your heart being at a place of, man, I want to, the whole goal of me staying up late and watching YouTube videos because I want to get this message out, which is so valuable. And
Mm.
like, how do you bring those things together? And I don't know, does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anybody want
Anybody
to
want
talk
to
about it?
talk
I'll start one thing
about
off.
it?
I think the
I'll
biggest
start one
space
thing
comes
off.
from
I think the
just
biggest
wanting to.
space
I
comes
think you
from
we talked about it.
just
Like
wanting to.
just
I think we
letting go.
talked
Like
about it. Like
I do
just
what I'm
like you
asked
were
to
like,
do. Like
I
whatever
do
is
what I'm
required of
asked to
me,
do.
I
Like
do.
whatever is
There's
required of
no.
me, I do. There's no
Like I think
like
one
I
of the
think
biggest
one of the
things
biggest things, I'm
for
pretty
Ruben
sure
is
Ruben,
like
that's the same thing with you.
you
You
didn't
didn't
want to
want to
do
Yeah.
it,
do it,
but
but
you
you
realize
realized
that
that
there
there was
was
a space where the church needed this, and
Yeah.
somebody needed to step up and learn this up. And you were like, you know what, I'm going to do that,
Yeah.
and I'm going to learn to enjoy doing it, even though I have no idea what it is. I think it started off. It's at a place where like the church needs this, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. Like I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna learn to enjoy it, even though I have no idea. I don't like cameras, but for me,
Hmm.
I'm like I have to learn it because it's what the church needs.
Yeah.
And slowly learning to enjoy the whole learning process because of the need of the church. I think that's where it came up for me. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm the same way. Like I feel like sometimes God puts like dreams and desires in your heart. And I think God does that to a lot of people, but there's only a few people who are willing to take that risk to really like do it because there's no blueprint, there's no formula on how to do it a lot of
Right.
times. So like guys like us who are like pioneers for many things, it's a very fear in inducing a risk that we take. So needs in our church. One thing that I do not like when people say is like we're not able to do that or we can't do that
Yeah,
or
yeah,
that's not possible. And
yeah.
so I'm like, man, like why do we limit ourselves? Like God
Yeah.
doesn't want us to limit ourselves. So why do we our human minds? I know there's a lot of people have different reasons for it, but for me personally, I'm like, let's just try it. Let's give it a try. Whatever. If we fail, we fail. And you guys know this because you guys know my heart. Like one of the biggest dreams for me at Metro is to like release our own written songs and albums. And someone like who's a leader knows how to vision cast well. Doesn't mean that you know how to get from point A to point B, but you know that eventually you want to take your whole team to that destination, to that place. And God will teach you along the way, the journey, especially what Josh is doing at Overflow and all these things. God will teach you every step of the way, and He will guide you every step of the way. But there has to be people who are like, I'm willing to take the risk. So for me personally, I don't like when people say we can't do this, or like we can't play that type of music. We can't do what that church is doing. I'm like, yes, we can. Let's give it a
Yes.
try. So I don't know. That's what drives me, guys. Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of want to kind of go back to what Josh was speaking about. The church needs this, so I'm gonna step up and do something. And I also kind of want to recap on what Ruben said. Like you said, one of the biggest needs that you have is to like want to release originals and stuff. And I feel like what I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but with the approach that Josh is coming is like there is a need that I need to meet because there's nobody else to do it.
Hmm.
And for Ruben, it's more like a desire than a need. It's like it's not like without Metro's music, we don't know what to sing kind of thing. It's like,
Mm.
man, I would love for our church. It's more like a desire that is coming up to
Mm.
wanting to do what you're doing. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit because I feel like I don't know, like need I've seen need, but I don't know if I was moved to do something because I did not completely connect with that desire.
Mm.
For me, it would be great to
Great to
have
have
like
like
all this
all this
Canon
Canon
cameras that
cameras
are
that are
capturing my
capturing my
podcast,
podcast,
but
but
for
for
me,
me,
is
is
that
that
a need or that's a
Mm.
desire? For me, that's a desire more
more
than a
than
need. For me, a
Mhm.
need is like my MacBook Pro, with webcam is great enough for me as long as it's out there. But for me, I feel like my desires
desires
are
are
different
different
compared
compared
to
to
like
like
I like design and clothing and like that's what I'm interested in. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the whole need and desire
Mm-hmm.
as our motivating factors to do. Because when I heard like Josh's thing, he kind of leaned a little bit more on the this is what the church needs, so I'm going to step in. But when I heard what Ruben had to say, it's more like
like
this is
this
what
is
I
what I
desire our
desire our
church to
church to
be, a
be, a
church
church
that
that
writes
writes
their
their
original
original
songs
songs.
and puts out stuff. So
I think it's a mix of both. The need drives the urgency. The desire was always there. I always wanted to do music. Like it was always there,
Wow.
but I never knew how and when and how. But when the need arose, the desire and the need connected into a place where I'm like, bam, it just fit in.
Yeah.
For a simple example, there's this guy. We're an acoustic guitarist. We have everything. We didn't have a bass guitarist. So this one guy comes up. He's like, "Hey, what do you guys need?" I'm like, "We would love to have a bass player." And he's married. He has got a kid. He's like, "What do you guys as a band or a church? What do you guys need? I can learn up a skill. What do you guys need?" I was like, "We would love to have somebody play bass." Okay, took the bass. He started waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning, 5 to 7 a.m. He would practice, and he would, yeah, 4 or 5, wake up, practice, go to work, come back. He was a chartered accountant. Come back in the evening, take care of his family. He kept doing this for 4 weeks, and I never promised him a stage. Nothing. He kept practicing simply for the sake of practicing. And all of a sudden, we had an event, and I was like, "Hey, do you think you can play?" He's like, "You can come and test me out, see how I do it." We tried him out. He clicked fast. It just worked. But for me, I'm like, like most people are like, "Hey, I am this thing. Do you want me?" It works that way too. But there's also a place where both of them. I think there's a sweet spot between need and the desire. For me, the desire was always there. But again, as you said, the way of how to go from the desire to get it done, I had no idea. So when the need arose, the desire and the need connected, where I'm like, you know what? It's just perfect. The timing is perfect. Everything is perfect. And I know this is what I'm supposed to do. Does it make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything Josh is saying. I think sometimes that there's like God pulls you to certain things that like spaces that are empty for you it's different, right? I mean, you said for you it's clothing, fashion. Why does God put that desire in your heart? Now he's telling you to go fulfill that need. He's like, it's your job now to go and occupy that space, to go. So I think sometimes we think when we go somewhere, it's almost like it's a prideful thing. Like when we go do something, we do it out of a state of pride. But I don't think it's that, because I think God gives everyone opportunities. Think about like David in the Bible, right? Like Samuel went through all of his brothers and came to David. Like there was a need, and he knew that the desires of your heart, and you will do it with a humble heart, right? So God knows those things. So I don't know. I don't think it's a prideful thing. I think someone just needs to step up. I think that's simply what it is. Someone just needs to step up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think even Taya, the Hillsong singer, I don't know if you guys have read her story. It goes something along these lines. Like, so they needed somebody to serve at the children's church. And so she would, I think, travel on 3 different trains to get to church and do it. She kept serving there without nothing else. And I think on a random day, somebody spotted her, and that's how. But she was serving for the last 2 years or 6 months. I don't know. But she was just serving at the children's church, and it was hard. She said she had no money. She had to just drive, like travel a lot to just get there. But sometimes I think it's the normal places. Like I think that's where our heart is tested before we're put in a place. Before the desire connects, before what we really want to do, we connect to the desire. I think there's a place where we just made to just be where we're tested. Like not tested, but are we okay just serving without any spotlight, without anything? How is our heart at that place? I think once that stage is over, I think the desire, need, everything comes together. It just connects.
Yeah, and to Josh's point, like I'm not satisfied. Like I feel like whenever I do something for God, I know God is proud of me, and I know God is smiling at me, but I feel like me as a human being, there's so much more I want to do for God. So whether it's like me playing electric guitar or like being behind a camera, I feel like I want to do the best that I want to do for God. Like I am not satisfied like just by like just coming and like doing the bare minimum and just like leaving. I don't know how people are okay with that. That just has never been my nature, to come and just like do what I do and just leave. I feel like anything, and outside even just church, I want to like just grow and be the best like person that God wants me to be. So like for me, it's not even like this thing of like I'm serving because there's a need. It's just like God's like, hey, I'm using this for your glory, God. If I'm scheduled to be an electric guitar player this week, I'm gonna learn every single guitar line that I need to. If I'm behind the camera, I'm gonna learn every angle or watch videos on this, and this. Like I think it's always just like bringing our best to God, and like God,
Yeah.
like that's what I love about David, right? And Josh, you kind of said this, right? Like he served in excellence even when people were not looking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he even when he was on the field and he was with his sheep, he was doing the same thing he was doing in the palace. In
Yeah.
from the pasture to the palace. It did not change. It's just like his environment might have changed, but his heart was still the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just it's a
No, I
character
think,
thing, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll take my friend Keith, for example. Like, even this podcast, Abeyson and me, like, we can just do it through the phone camera, this camera. But he's like, you know what? When we have something better, why don't we just do it? Let's do it. Let's try it.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
kept pushing. He's like, we'll do it. Let's go
Yeah.
for it. And he's always like that. I'm like, yeah, let's keep it simple. He's like, no, we have everything. Why don't we try? Why don't we do the best?
Yeah.
So, and it's good to surround yourself with people who think like that. You automatically keep on
Yeah.
being challenged and pushed.
Yeah.
And also like that, he did what he knew what he was good at. Because
Wow.
even the whole setup process, like he put all the cameras and lights and everything, and then I had a question about the audio, and it's like, you know what, Josh is better with audio. Let's turn to him, and let's figure that out. And I feel like many people who don't like. I don't know. Like sometimes when people do things that they don't know, they cause more damage than all that too. So knowing your strengths, knowing where you can contribute, knowing what it is that you can bring to the offer, plate also. And if like the example of the guy who played bass, right? If I don't know something, I'm gonna take that time to grow in that because that's something that I want to, plug in. And like I'm just not gonna give like I don't know how to play bass, but it's my first day. I learned like 4 notes. I'm not just gonna go up and ask to be on stage and play the 4 notes that I know. No, I'm gonna get to a point where like you say, oh yeah, you're good. Let's just do this together because like that's what brings out the best products or that's what brings out excellence and stuff like that. So
Wow. Yeah, and I get this concept that like, I guess is keep resonating in my heart is, and Josh and Ebby, you guys are people of this character, are creators of culture. You guys are creating something that people are attracted to. And usually there are people that are not attracted to excellence, but there are people who are attracted to excellence. And my pastor, Pastor Linton, always says this because I'm very like growing up in the Indian church, we always have this like lone wolf mentality. We always we think that we have to do everything because nobody else is doing it. And we start to feel like, and then when there are people who come around and surround you, you feel like safe, you trust them. Like for Josh, you have all those guys back in your ministry. But the lesson that I've been learning the most as someone who creates culture is people are attracted to excellent culture. Our pastor used to always say, like, the Bible says, like, the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. Imagine, like, this concept where, because we often think that we have to have excellent people around us for the harvest to be plentiful. What if there's excellent people in the harvest? Like, what if there's people waiting for you to create a space so that they, whenever the time is ready, they can come and be partnered with you?
Yes.
When I thought of that concept, I was like, there are people that are waiting for excellent culture to spur up somewhere, and they'll come and just be attracted to you. Like, like the flies when they see a light bulb, like they'll just come to you. And when I understood that concept, it blew my mind. Because I was like, man, I had to be the one that's at the top making the decisions. Like I had to create this, but like God's like, no, I'm going to surround you with a really excellent photographer. I'm going to surround you with a really good videographer. I'm going to surround you with a great worship leader who has a heart for this. I'm going to put this piece around you, as long as you are faithful. And so I don't know. You guys, what do y'all think about the idea?
While you were talking, I was reminded of the story. So when I left the US, came back, culture difference, all that's happening. And so there was this other person who used to lead a worship over here. And after a while, he's like, you can lead. So I do the practices. At that time, you literally had to beg people to come for practice. Like you beg them, hey, please come for practice. We have practice, and nobody's going to come. Parents are like, oh, we don't want to send our kids. We don't think it's okay to send our kids. It's this whole thing. And I was like, you know what? This is not the way we do it. First thing we did was we stopped calling people. We were like, you know what? We're going to create such a culture that people would beg to be in the be, to beg be, would beg to be a part of this. So it took about 2 years. We started working on our culture. We started working on this, our whole team dynamics, everything. 2 years later, by the time we had a structure, people are like, "Can we please come and just be a part? Can we just sit around?" We're like, "Yeah, can we sing on stage?" You're like, "Yeah, you got to be a part of the team for 6 months. You got to serve off stage 6 months." And we had this whole structure. But
Yeah.
everybody else was just a part of it, and nobody wanted to be a part of it. They were just, it was easier. And so my thing is, I'm like, if people are not enjoying it, let's not. I'm like, I don't want to blame the people. I think I can make it so attractive that people want to be a part of it. Because I'm like, if I like a food somewhere, I'm going to travel far to just eat from that place.
Yeah.
When I come to Dallas, I travel all around to eat food. I'm like, it's because the food is good.
The
Like
food
they
is
don't have
good,
to
yeah.
beg me. They don't have to call me. I go looking for it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think
Oof.
I think that's something we can do. We can excel at what we do into such a place that people want to be a part of it.
Hmm. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. So that concept is like very powerful for me. So I changed like my ministry method, man. Like I'm like take the pressure off of ourselves, you know?
Yeah.
Take the pressure and just enjoy what we do. Love what we do, and then God will do the rest. You know, he will
Yeah.
he will bring those people that you never thought would be in your life. He will bring connections in your life, and like that's a joy of doing what we
Yeah.
do. Is just like the connections and the people that you surround yourself with, and the dynamics. Like I feel like doing it together is better than doing it alone. You know, enjoying it,
100%.
the successes and all the failures you have, you get to do that together. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Man,
yeah.
like I'm loving these conversations. I know we talked about so many different things, a wide spectrum of topics. Hopefully, whoever is listening and watching can get some points that would help you, and that's the whole goal of this thing, to even press record and put it out. Because there's so many times that I've been in conversations with these two guys, and I'm like, man, more people need to hear this, and I hope that our conversations have, sparked some ideas or something. But I want to ask you guys, like, if somebody is listening to this and I'm like, oh, what they're saying is so awesome, and I love to do that and all that stuff, but I don't know how to, start. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. Like for you guys to even, maybe you can just reflect back into like your early days of you guys starting off with and everything that you guys are doing. What were like one of those initial steps?
Reuben.
Oh,
We'll wrap it up with this. I don't want to like keep y'all too long, but
yeah, sure. No, that's a good question, Abby. I think a lot of humility, guys. Honestly, I think
yeah,
you have to be okay with just like sometimes you might things that you expect might not be the way that you anticipated.
yeah,
And I don't know, like it's a tough question for me, bro, because this is something that I go back and forth with God all the time. Like it's just like this concept of our purpose and fulfilling that purpose.
yeah,
Because I don't know, if God has given you a desire and a purpose in your heart, it doesn't matter what people say. It doesn't matter what social media and all these things have to do. Like your goal is to run and chase after that purpose in your life. And I don't think that I will never, like I said, I will never not be satisfied, because I'm always seeking after the call and the purpose that God has for me in my life. So I just say, just do it. Like, guys, just do it. Don't worry about the fear that comes with it. Like there's a risk that's involved, but the reward is greater. Yeah. So
I guess like sorry.
Good.
No, like kind of summarizing what Ruben said, like just do it, as in take that first next step.
yes,
Like,
just say yes.
Like
Yeah.
a few minutes ago, Ruben was talking about how he wants to get from A to B, but he does not know how to get to B yet, but he knows what he needs to do next.
Yes.
Taking that next step. And somebody gave me this analogy, how car headlights, like you want to reach from A to B and you're driving in a car, the light is not going to shine all the way to B. It's going to shine a little bit in front of A. You keep driving and the light's going to keep shining a little bit more. And you keep driving and the light is going to shine a little bit more. And eventually that light that shines a little bit, it's eventually leading you to B. you
That's a
know.
good one.
Yeah.
That's good.
So that's kind of like summarizing from what Ruben said. Like when Ruben said just do it, it's not
You
like
see.
I don't know what to do. It's like take that next first step. Yeah.
Man, I'll
Totally.
add on to that with an example from my life from recent. Like I told you, I struggle with perfectionism, and I want to start doing something. I don't know what, and I think the biggest hindrance for me is what will people think. Like navigating what will people think was the biggest challenge. I'm like, do I really have to do it? This whole thing. So let's talk about reels that I do. The first reel that I did, I'm randomly sitting in my room, in my studio, just jamming, and I was like, you know what? Let me just put these two lines out simply. I don't have anything. Like Keith's not there. I've not even talked with anybody. Take up my phone camera, put it on like the reverse cam, just record myself, and just randomly put a random grade on it, put it out, and that's all it was. It was done, and I didn't know what was going to happen. Keith comes home the weekend. He's like, "Bro, can we do something together every week? We'll do something together." And it just started from there. I'm like, bro, you sure we can do it every week? He's like, yep, let's do
Wow.
it. And but it required me to simply put out something random without even talking to anybody, just taking that first step of putting it out there. And slowly, the other guys around me, they're like, hey, can we also be a part? Can we do something together? It slowly started
Yes.
building this thing. It
Yes.
never started from a place of, hey, let's do something, but it's more like, hey, you're doing something, can we join along with that? Can we all do it together?
Yeah.
And slowly, it just became a collab like that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I could
man.
talk about this all day, bro. And I want to
I
encourage like
know.
every creator that's out there in the world. Like
Yeah.
I feel like that's my desire for people out there, because any gift that you have gives glory back to Him. So
Mm.
even if you feel like it's something small, or every offering is
Yeah.
brings glory and worship back to Him. So don't be
Yeah.
afraid. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
That's
awesome,
good.
man. We started with planning and being spontaneous, and we went to a whole spectrum of things, and
Landed
uh,
back.
landed back onto this. But
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully our conversation has encouraged you to keep doing what you're doing, or even to take that first little step and let God do some great things. I think recently our pastor was talking about how that little boy who gave his 5 loaves and 2 fish,
Mm.
and how
Yep.
Jesus multiplied that. And
Mhm.
he did not just multiply it to fill the needs of the moment, but he multiplied it to overflow
Mm.
into something more than what was imagined. Overflow.
Represent.
Beautiful overflow.
Yeah, beautiful overflow. I think I'm a title this now. Beautiful
Beautiful
overflow.
waste, beautiful overflow.
I wish I could
That's good.
cut out the waste on the YouTube description, because I get like beautiful waste cut out overflow.
Come on, that's good.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you for listening to our talks.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching us, and we would love to hear your thoughts on anything that we spoke about. And like we said, we want to hear your perspective, and we want to come alongside you if that's something that we can do in our capacity. So
Yeah.
yeah, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about it. Let us know if this was helpful, or even if it's not. It's just about, I love doing this with you guys, no matter what.
Oh yeah, man.
We'll still keep doing talking,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. We're
hopefully
all really good
this
friends
helps.
outside the podcast, I
Yeah,
promise.
And this is what we
Yeah.
do. This is what we
yeah.
normally do when we hang out.
Seriously, I know.
Yeah,
I
this is
mean,
life for us, man. Yeah.
that's why even 58 minutes right now did not feel like 58
58
minutes.
minutes.
No. Is it been 58
Yeah.
minutes? Oh gosh.
And yeah, I think this is
That's
the
awesome.
longest podcast that we have done so far.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Hey, another podcast, we just need to talk about each of our growth together, man. I think it's been
each
awesome.
of
We
our
all seen
what?
each other,
Growth.
like our growth
Oh,
together. I think
okay.
we've seen each other from just like the earlier stages, and I think
That's true.
that would be such
9 years
a
ago.
9
Wait,
years ago, an encouraging
next
conversation.
next week I'm with Josh
We're
We're
together.
Dude,
together.
let's continue it.
again. So maybe we can
Maybe.
talk about that. Maybe.
Maybe Josh can
Let's
be
go.
another co-host. we just
Hey, let's go.
Let's go.
let's just keep adding people.
Honored,
Is
guys.
Josh going
Let's
to be
go.
added onto the podcast every week?
Ooh.
Join in next week to find out.
Next week. Oh man, but I love you guys, man. Maybe we can do this in person
Love
one
Love
you
you
day.
too,
man.
bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love you, man.
Love you,
All right.
bro.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. Yeah. Let us know what you think. Like, share, subscribe, whatever else you need to do to help us. So thank you. Love you guys. Bye.
Thank you so much for taking your time to listen to the Beautiful Waste podcast. We would love to hear your thoughts on it. So please leave a comment or a review and like, share, subscribe so more people can get to know about it.
Podcast that long. That's cool though. Thank you, Rube. Yeah,
was
same
fun.
here.